Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. Returning listener, great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, really glad you joined us. Hope you like what you hear. You picked a great episode. If this is your first time, we've got another awesome guest. We keep finding awesome people and bringing them on. Never quite know what the topic's going to be here on Salty Ginger Talk, but it's always about, at its core, building a life that you love and a life that's important to you, a life that has purpose. And our guest tonight, Lisza Crisalle, started a business with her husband over 20 years ago, has weathered the storm through the 2008 financial crisis, through the COVID pandemic, still going strong. She is super passionate about what she does. She's got a business that helps other businesses create systems and solve problems. It's super interesting. She's a great lady, also a fellow Oregonian. So she's got a special spot on Salty Ginger Talk because she is from the same town we are from. And so she's got that going for her, which is awesome too. So without any further ado, let's bring Lisza onto the show now. So, Lisza, thank you so much for joining us at Salty Ginger Talk tonight.
I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to have a conversation.
Totally. Yeah, we had a great conversation a little over a month ago now, I think, and found out that we're both natives of Portland, Oregon.
That's right. Yes, grew up there, had some great life experiences in Oregon. It's a fantastic place to be from, I think.
Yes, I do too. It's very different now than it was when we grew up there, and
Yeah.
I know lots of folks there, and hopefully they get some of that stuff sorted out. I know they've got a pretty big homeless problem, and there's quite a bit of drug use there as well. But it's still, there's awesome people there. There's such good stuff to do there with outdoor stuff. You got the mountains, you got the ocean, you got the two rivers, hiking, and good food, and all sorts of
And I
good
did
stuff there.
all
So
of that. I did all of that too. I mean, that's what I loved about it. My upbringing there was just all about being active and outdoors, and you know, I just did amazing things. So it was a great life experiences.
yeah, yeah, me too. I had similar experiences. So yeah, but we're super excited to bring you on. And you and your husband started a business a couple decades ago now. And you're so good to be able to walk us through some of the good stuff that's happened from that, some of the struggles that you've had to fight through and that you've learned from that. And then I want to talk a lot about kind of what you guys do. And I know you've got a couple of different irons in the fire, and want to walk through all that with you while we're in front of the viewers. So if you wouldn't mind, just give us a brief background of you from kind of like, graduating high school, making your way out into the adult world, broad strokes, and then we'll go back and kind of do deep dives on the important stuff.
Great, very cool. So, yeah, I am a serial entrepreneur, shall we say, and I always want to give a shout out where proper for an organization called Junior Achievement. And I don't know if you're familiar with Junior Achievement, but I was introduced to Junior Achievement in high school in Portland. It was an amazing opportunity and program on entrepreneurism. So they don't teach that in high school. They don't teach, how to be an entrepreneur. What does that take? And I was interested in some extracurricular units, shall we say, so that I could graduate early. And Junior Achievement allowed me to do that, but it really helped to form me. I give them so much credit because each year that you're in the program, what we did was, again, it was all about building a business, building a company. What did it take? How do you create a product? How do you bring it to market? Like all of the things on running a business. And each year it was very, very different. And I literally say that that really helped shape me. And after high school, though, I ended up, even through junior achievement, I ended up, going into the corporate world. That's just kind of what happened naturally. However, I always had one foot in, you know, earning extra income and doing other programs and doing other things. So I always had that entrepreneur spirit. I did many network marketing companies. I did, other income producing programs, things that I could do to, you know, be able to earn more than a set salary, right? Because you get maxed out. And so I love to share about junior achievement. I love to, encourage people that if you have children or kids that are in it's early high school, through high school, to introduce that to them. It's a phenomenal program. It's a organization that is countrywide. So that, as I said, really shaped me. I spent some time kind of traveling around and doing the things that you do when you're in your 20s. Um, and I fell into my first real corporate job. It just happened by chance. I wasn't planning on it, I wasn't looking for it, but it sent me down the path of working in law for 20 years.
Mm.
Um, I was actually it's a crazy story, so I'll keep it really short. I was a waitress and a bartender at this really cool place in Southern California, and doing my thing. And we all got notice that the restaurant was shutting down in 2 weeks. And so I was picking up extra shifts. I was serving this table, and it was a table full of attorneys and a law firm administrator. And they apparently really liked me, and they're like, so, would you be interested in like another job and getting out of this? And I'm like, how weird was that? Like they didn't know the restaurant was closing. So they offered me a job. I took it and everything changed. I ended up going to school to become a paralegal. I worked my way up through the ranks, became a litigation paralegal. I learned so much. I worked with some amazing firms. And then I moved into law firm administration. So I became a law firm administrator and tech IT manager and IT director for a couple of different firms that I was with. And it changed everything. I just became corporate focused. Thought that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. I made very good income. I was very involved with the American Bar Association and the Legal Administrators Association. So I was going down this pathway. And then my husband came into my life. He wasn't at the time, but he was my boyfriend. Well, I met him, and everything shifted. And once we got married, he also decided to step away from a corporate gig, and we decided to open up our own business. And we opened up our company, which exists still today, Exercise and Nutrition Works, in 2003. And I was kind of handling the backside, the admin, and running the business. And he was the front side of it. He's a registered dietitian. He developed the very first CEU accredited nutrition certification program on the market and the very first nutrition software. And that's a whole story. So we built our company from there, and we're 23 years later, and we look completely different. And we've evolved. And so this is one of the things I talk about entrepreneurs is if your business isn't evolving, it's dying, right? You've got to stay current. You've got to be able to evolve and adapt. And we've had many adaptations as the company has grown. We're kind of known as the OGs in the nutrition space. But we developed it as we were educators for obviously nutrition businesses. And so we went the business route, took my background and his background, and in the last 6 years, that has evolved more into technology and business. So there's a lot to unpack there.
Totally. No, I love it. Thank you so much for walking us through it. One of the things I try to do on the podcast is point out commonalities we see between our guests. Like we were talking about before we started recording, we're very fortunate that we attract really high caliber people to our podcast. And sometimes the subjects are like emotionally heavy, sometimes they're business related. The whole point of what we talk about on the podcast is you should build a purposeful life. Whatever that means to you is fine. Maybe it's about religion. Maybe it's about relationships. Maybe it's about work. Maybe it's about health. Doesn't matter what it is, but you should be getting after it, whatever it is, and you should be doing it with purpose. And the funny part about it is, much like the story you just described in your life, we hear a similar trajectory over and over and over again where I was taking steps and I was taking action, and it led me to meet these people, and that took me a different direction. And then I did this and this and this, and I met this people or learned this, and it
Yeah.
took me in a different direction. But the commonality is taking action. And we talk about that over and over again on the podcast. And you're yet another shining example of someone who's built a really successful life for themselves simply by getting up and getting after it every day, even if you didn't know where it was leading you. And I just love that part about your story.
Yeah, it's been a twisty, turny road, but it's been an amazing adventure the entire way. Being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. And sometimes it's amazing and sometimes it's not. And, it can be a tough road, but both of my husband and I are just so driven that we know, like, we've been through the roughest of times and we've survived it. And we always know that we have the opportunity to create our own economy. And by understanding that and knowing that it's in our control and not somebody else's control is really what has led us.
Yeah, love that. And let me just interject here. Like entrepreneurship is not for everybody. So I know there's a lot of people out there that like everyone should be an entrepreneur. I don't think that's true. But if you do have an entrepreneurial bent or an entrepreneurial spirit, you shouldn't let fear stop you from chasing it. You shouldn't let fear stop you from taking your shots. And newsflash, sometimes you're going to fail. Sometimes you're going to get kicked in the teeth. Sometimes it's not going to go the way you want it to. But welcome to life. It is what it is. Yeah. So, how did you and your husband meet? Walk us through a little bit about how that relationship developed, and then we'll get into the business side of it.
That's a great one. Yes. So going back to my law firm days, I lived in Southern California, and there was a very high-end, wonderful gym facility down there. At the time, it was called the Sports Club Irvine. My husband was the head dietitian at the Sports Club Irvine. So he was one of the top salespeople in the entire company. He had developed his program. He worked with, very high level, businesses, C-level executives, et cetera. And it just so happened some dear friends of mine who is an attorney and his wife were clients of his. And they kept raving about my husband's name is Lucho. So he's from Argentina. So his real name is Luis, but he goes by Lucho. It's a nickname. And they kept saying, you have to go to see Lucho. You have to go see Lucho. Like he's a good, like his program is amazing. And I was like, all right, like who's this Lucho dude? So I was ready to make some changes in my nutrition. I had been training really hard, wasn't having a lot of changes. I'm like, all right, I'll go check it out. So I did. I hired him. We hit it off right away. And obviously it was a professional relationship initially. And however, we knew we hit it off really well. And so we kept, communicating extra. And at one point, and this is a story we share all the time, we were talking all the time, like texting and talking and going back and forth. And I just finally said to him, like, hey, how come you haven't asked me out on a date? I was like, I'm straight up. And he's like, well, because you're a client. So I fired him.
I was gonna say, I know it's coming next.
I fired him. And so here we are. Okay. We actually will be 20 years in September, married. So we just, we had similar ideals and it worked really well. And again, at the time, we both were in corporate positions. But as he was evolving his programs that he was doing. So at the time, he was utilizing the program that he developed just in the gym. And we kept talking. I said, we need to make this like a separate program that we can create and sell. And so we decided to just go for it and we developed it. We actually sold $100,000 worth of certifications before he ever wrote a single word of it, because we wanted to make sure that it was a viable product, right? It was a
Yeah,
viable,
sure.
nothing like it existed at the time, nothing at all on the market. And so we pre-sold it to make sure it was, something that people actually wanted. And then he spent a summer basically writing the whole program. And he he decided it was time to leave corporate. We got our own office. And it just went from there. It just all happened. It just flowed like it was viable. Lucha was very well known in the industry for his background. He's a specialist with supplementation. He was brought in by a lot of companies to help them in the design of their supplements. And so he just had a great reputation. We've worked with, we had a 5-year contract with Gold's Gym International. We worked with a lot of the top gyms across the country. And so it just sent us in that trajectory and phenomenally. I mean, our beginning years were exciting and fun, and our company grew and we grew into bigger locations, and we had a full almost 10,000 square foot facility in Southern California, in Orange County, California. Talking about high overhead. We
Mm,
had
yeah.
and we were rocking it. We were crushing. And then 2008, 2009 happened.
Mm.
And we pretty much lost everything almost overnight, literally within 2 months. Yeah, we went from 5,000 plus dollar days to $200 weeks like
Oh,
that.
oh,
So
that's a kick in the gut.
yeah, it was a kick in the gut. It was a scary time. And that was the one of the two very difficult times that our company survived. And we know that, we could survive that. We could survive anything.
Mm.
Yeah.
So what was the first iteration of the company? What exactly did you guys do? What was your product? What was your service?
So the product was the Certified Fitness Nutrition Specialist, which still exists today. We call it a CFNS, so Certified Fitness Nutrition Specialist. It's a CEU accredited nutrition certification. We work with some of the top certifying agencies. So they, personal trainers, health coaches, health practitioners, they have requirements. They have CEU requirements. So they need to do different courses and different studies. So those were really who our clients were. We worked with a lot of gyms, a lot of nutrition stores, things like that. And yeah, that, as I said, that still exists today. That program still is in existence. We still have clients all over the world, and we certify students through that program. And how it evolved was as we were working with more, like once after we ended our 5-year contract with Gold's Gym, um, we decided to end the contract because we were doing all the work and they were getting all the benefits of it,
Sure,
you
yeah.
know. Um, and so we decided to end that contract and work directly. And we realized in working with these business owners that they would take our course and they'd learn how to do it, but they didn't understand the business side of it.
Yep.
And that's kind of like my sweet spot. I'm a business strategist. So we started developing business strategies around different types of businesses, whether it was a gym or a yoga studio or a nutrition store or a chiropractor. And so we literally built a business model. And then we did a conference twice a year called the Monetize Your Nutrition Knowledge Conference. And we would bring people in from all over and train them on the business. And that's really how it evolved. So it evolved from just the certification to great, you get certified. Now what? How do you monetize that? And so then we moved into the business side of it, and that continued. And then we started taking on larger clients for the business side and started helping them with their technology because both my husband and I are tech geeks. And so we love that stuff. And we would help them design tech stacks, what we call now tech stacks of different things that were most suited to them and their business. And so, again, that's a good part of the evolution.
Wow, that's such a cool story. The 2008 situation, did people just stop spending money on nutrition and personal training? Is that what happened? Like, did the bottom just fall out of that market?
So yes. So if you're familiar with Orange County, California, it is probably one of the number one industries there is the real
Yep.
estate industry. It's in the particular area where we were, which is called the Irvine Spectrum. Our business was 90% like brokers, realty agencies, like and attorneys,
Mm.
right? We did have a lot of attorneys because of my background, but it was mostly in the real estate industry. So when that happened, guess what happened? All of the extra, that was an extra expense. All of that got cut. And so we literally lost 90% of our business overnight, like within a month. Like it just stopped when everything crashed. Everyone's like canceling and stopping. And, there was fear. There was all the things that were going on back then. And Orange County was really the center of it. So we were in this phenomenal building. It was a whole health and wellness center we actually had. And we had we had a whole back area where we had personal trainers back there. We had a full gym facility. We had a chiropractor, an esthetician. We had all these different sub-lease sub-tenants. And their businesses died and they canceled, and we're left in this building with a huge net over our head.
Mm,
And we were just very fortunate that our landlord, who was amazing, negotiated with us out of the contract, out of the lease. And we literally took almost a 10,000 square foot facility, sold off everything that we could, and then we moved our entire business into our home. And that was 2009. And so the great part of this is two things. One, we started a fully online business in 2009. Now we were already partially online, like we were selling our products online, like we were doing online business. But we also, we had a brick and mortar. So we shut down the brick and mortar, went entirely 100% online, and our business took off. Um, because we were already somewhat structured for it, we just restructured how we did business, how we ran our business. So it was a very tough time. There, we called those the dark days, but
for sure. Yeah, I get that.
oh, and there was more to it, but I'm not going to go into all the details. But it was the dark days. We learned, we stood up, we wiped off, and said, okay, let's think, let's ask better questions, right? Let's ask better questions. How can we restructure this? So 2009, as I said, we went entirely online. We restructured how we promoted and marketed and did everything. And the huge advantage to that was when 2020 happened with the pandemic, right? And all these businesses are scrambling, especially the gym industry, the
Mm.
health and gym industry, right, which shut down. We'd been positioned for years, almost 10 years. So actually more than 10 years. So we were very fortunate because we had sort of seen that we knew that there was some kind of a recession that was going to happen, right? We know that through cycles and understanding the business cycles. We knew it was going to be something. We had no idea it was going to be a pandemic, but we had already structured our clients to have an online component. So all of our health and wellness clients all thrived. I've survived to thrived during the pandemic when almost all the gym facilities shut down because they were already positioned to be online.
Mm.
And so for us, while it was a very difficult time overall, right, for everybody, we were positioned properly and we helped our clients be positioned properly to be able to survive that crazy time.
For sure. Well, I love your comment about ask better questions because I've been in business both on the corporate side and as an entrepreneur. And look, shit goes wrong. I don't know of a different way to say it. Shit goes wrong, and it doesn't matter if you want it to or not. Sometimes you could see it coming, and maybe you should have seen it coming. And sometimes you don't know, like the pandemic. Who knew that the world was going to lose their fucking mind over a cold virus? I mean, it's funny because the pandemic wasn't actually the problem; it was the reaction
Was the
to the
reaction.
pandemic. And I could do a full episode on everything. The thing that irritates me now is the revisionists, the people who want to rewrite history and say, "Well, nobody knew anything." That's fucking bullshit. We knew 2 months in what was
We knew.
happening, and it was a crazy power grab, and it irritates me because lots of people lost their businesses because of ridiculous government overreach. And like we know, and I know because we've done it, the grind that people have gone through to put themselves in positions to be successful and then to have it all be taken away because some bureaucrat decides you can't be within 6 feet of each other for no good reason, by the way. There's no science that
Yeah,
says,
there
oh, six
wasn't.
feet, oh, masks, oh, this, oh, that. Bullshit. It's a cold virus. Everybody's
Yeah.
going to get it. Welcome to life. We've all gotten colds. That's how it works. But okay, I'm off my tirade. Let's get back to my
Okay.
question here. uh, Walk through that process a little bit because I think it's very important because uh, I don't want to speculate whether there was panic in your house or there was not panic in their house. It had to feel shitty, whatever you call it. It
Uh-huh.
had to feel shitty, and your reaction to it is what got you through it. And I'm hoping you can talk a little bit more about how you calmed the nerves with all of this at stake, right? Because there had to be a point where you're like, fuck, we can't make rent next month. Like, we're not going to make rent next month. What do we do? Right.
So, wow. So here's how it was interesting. So we, as I mentioned, used to do live events twice a year. We either did it once or twice a year, and that particular year we had it scheduled for December 2020.
Mm.
Um, so obviously in the beginning, obviously everything shut down in March. We were supposed to be flying to Australia in April, and obviously that didn't happen. Um, and so for us, I'm going to be really honest because I know it was so difficult for so many people, but we already worked from home.
Mm.
So it wasn't a big change for us as far as how to restructure what, what to do. And oh my gosh, how do we spend our time? Like we already had that down. We'd been on Zoom since 2009. So we were, it was old hat to us. And when all these people were discovering Zoom in 2020, we were kind of cracking up. I don't know if you remember the attorney with the cat head who showed up to a law case. I don't know if you remember that.
I
He,
don't.
oh, it was hysterical. He had his child had gone onto his computer and was playing with the avatars. So the attorney had to show up to court, and he was a cat avatar. And it's the funniest video you've ever seen in your life. And he's like, I'm not a cat. I promise you, I'm not a cat. I'm an attorney. It was hysterical. But anyway, so for us, we thought that was quite funny. But we just had to, like everyone else, we had to restructure how we spent our time and what we did. Our biggest was concern was helping our clients utilize the platforms that they had that we had already set up with them to be online to then move the rest of their businesses online. So for us, it's the more we could help them, it helped everybody, right? So that's really how we spent our time. We were not, we didn't panic. My husband went into massive scientific study mode because for us, we wanted to understand both sides of it, right? It's really
Mm.
important not to, oh my God, they said this and they said that. We studied the science. That's
Yeah.
everything we do in our whole nutrition programs, everything's based on science. It's not based on theories. So we weighed both sides. What are they saying? What is the science behind it? What are they saying? What is the science behind it? Um, I will just share again for myself personally. I think everyone is entitled to make their own choices.
Yep.
I've never shamed anybody for choices that they made. Our choice was our choice based on what we knew as the science. So for us, um, the only time where we had a really big issue with it had to do with our live event. So of course, normally we did those in person, right? We would
Mm.
have generally about 50 people come in, fly into Vegas, where I live. We'd have a event space and we would do all the things that we did. Obviously, we had to figure out another way. It wasn't going to happen. There wasn't any ground rules for this anymore. Nobody knew how to do things virtually at the time. They didn't know. But we connected with a friend of ours in the industry in technology, and we're like, there has to be a way to do this. Look, we've been using Zoom for a really long time. How can we use Zoom? How can we use Zoom and set this up as a virtual event? So we partnered up with him and his team, and we set it all up as a virtual event. So all of our clients could attend from home. Okay. They didn't have to travel, they didn't have to be around other people, and it was great. Now, the other piece is that my husband and I are, we were well, let's see, we were late 50s at the time, right? It was 5 years ago. So late 50s at the time. And again, there were concerns. There was a lot of concern over older people having, but we were both very, very healthy. So it wasn't that we were so concerned about that, but we made the decision not to get vaccinated. That was our decision. We knew that there were alternatives that had really great response in different countries. So we were like, we're fine, like we're good. We stayed inside, we stayed to ourselves, we didn't go out. Um, so when it was time for our event, um, it was held in it was actually held in a home that's just set up for events. So it
Mm.
was literally my husband and I, our friend who was running it, and then his one team member. Okay. So we had pre-meetings ahead of time and we said, look, we're fine. Lucho and I cannot wear a mask when we're teaching, right? We're going to be up there teaching. We're going to be on camera. We cannot wear a mask. Our only request is that you guys wear a mask. We didn't know, but at the time it was like a mask was what was known to maybe help reduce sharing germs. So we were there. It was a 3 days straight. So day one, we come in, we're teaching for 7 straight hours. Okay. It's
Ooh.
a big deal. So we're there, we trade off things, and everybody, the one guy was in like the room with us, and then his assistant. And then our sales team was working virtual. So he shows up on day two, and on day two, he's sweating and he's coughing and he's sniffling and he's sweating and shaking. And then he's leaving and he's going into the room to lie down. And we're on this huge monitor, and he made a mistake of texting his team member that popped up on our screen while we're teaching. And it says, I'm not feeling good. I think that this might be, COVID. And he didn't realize that we saw it. So we're like on the side, like, what the heck is going on here? So that night we had a powwow, and like age, I won't say his name. This wasn't appropriate. You should have, not been in the scene and whatever. So again, long story short, he got full on COVID, declines to tell us that he did. 1 week later, so we actually had 3 days live, and then we had a fourth day with our VIPs. And on the fifth day, I started not feeling good. And I immediately went and tested, and I tested positive. And I hadn't been around a single person for 4 months other than him. So we text his wife and we said, look, everybody in our team, we texted everybody in our team and we said, we want to let everyone know Lisa has COVID, if anyone's experienced anything, right? Because that's the right thing to do.
Sure.
His wife responds to us 6 hours later and says her husband was in the hospital he was intubated. And he'd been there for 3 days and they didn't bother to tell us.
Wow.
So, needless to say, we're no longer friends, you guys, and it was a not positive experience. However, my last point on this is this. That relationship was ruined just because of not out of integrity. Um, However, both my husband and I both got it, and we studied again, I'm not preaching anything, but we studied the results of ivermectin, which were really, really positive. Human use of ivermectin has been used for 40 years.
Hmm.
It literally costs 40 cents a pill.
Hmm.
Okay. You guys, it's very effective. It's a antiviral. That's what it is. And we got ourselves the ivermectin. We were both it's there's like a 3 day protocol on it. By the fourth day, we were fine. No long haulers, no side effects, nothing was left. We were fine. So sorry for the long story, but
No, I love it.
it was a process, right? Of a lot of people, there's a lot of things, but being honest and being in integrity is the most important thing to us. Um, had he been straight up with us, things could have been handled differently. But it was a time that a lot of people didn't really know. We didn't know. And being older, I would say once I got sick, I was concerned. I was literally concerned. Okay, I'm not 20 years old, but I mean, I'm really healthy and I know that. And so, obviously we were able to bounce back quite well, and it's been a non-issue. We didn't stress out over it. We just, worked through the process.
Sure. Yeah. And so look, there's several points. I really appreciate you walking through that at the level of detail that you did, because I think there's several really important points there. The first, you have this live event scheduled, and instead of saying, well, shit, we can't do live events, I guess we got to cancel it, you problem solve, right? You start asking questions, you problem solve, and say, there's got to be a way to do this. Might look different than we had planned originally, but we're not going to let things out of our control derail us or stop us. We're going to control what we can control and do the best that we can. So I think that's lesson number one. As it relates to ivermectin, um, I there's absolutely no way for me to prove this, but it seems very unlikely that this is correlation and not causation. But which continent had by far the best outcomes for COVID? It was Africa. And where do people take ivermectin regularly to stop things like malaria and
Yeah.
tuberculosis? It's Africa.
It was
And I
also
don't.
South America, by the way. It's also
Mm,
South America, which were the studies that we found.
Sure. Well, it makes sense with your husband being from Argentina. It makes
Yeah.
perfect sense, right? So, yeah. And this whole there's two, there's at least two. I don't know if there's more. I'm not a doctor. I didn't stay at Holiday Inn Express last night, but I'm not an idiot either. There's two different forms of ivermectin. One is in
Yes.
fact given to horses to deworm them. A
Yes,
completely
exactly.
different type of ivermectin has been given to humans for 40 years, like
Yes.
Lisa just said.
Yes. And that was a definitive factor. A lot of people went crazy on the whole horse thing. And that's, again, people aren't doing their research, right? Like, again, you've got to research this stuff out. That is one form of it. The other form has been, like you said, been used for over 40 years at 40
Yes,
cents a pill. Not the big money grab
exactly.
that happened with everything else. But anyway, so we
Yes.
move on. So the beautiful thing is at that virtual event, we actually launched our agency. And so it was a major turning point for us because we went from being just a provider to being a full agency. And everything shifted for us after that.
Oh man, I love that. The last thing I wanted to mention on your story, just about the whole process at the event, integrity, right? So just be straight up with people. It's always better to just be straight up with people. And like you heard Lisa talk about it earlier, when they wound up in 2008 having problems, go to your landlord and say, hey, we got problems. We got to talk about this. I'm not just going to not pay you and not communicate. Like we're going to have a problem. Let's talk through it. Same deal in this situation.
Yeah.
So the person who shall remain nameless like is keeping stuff to themselves, and when Lisa starts feeling bad, she communicates to everybody, hey, just heads up, I don't know, I tested and it's positive, so you guys should all know that it is
Yes.
what it is, but it's always better to be straightforward. So just I wanted to get that point in, but
Yeah,
let's.
I'm so with you on that. I just think it's so much easier. Communication is key in all aspects, whether it's business or personal. Absolutely.
Yes, totally agree with you. So let's pivot to your agency that you just brought up, because I do want to get back to that, because that from the research I did and what I saw on your website and stuff, like that seems to be going really well, and it's very interesting.
It's very exciting.
Mm,
I will say, things never just stay stagnant. They're moving very, very quickly. This day and age, and I'll bring up, for those of you, you guys know AI is moved into our worlds, and it has moved into our worlds at a breakneck pace. I mean, it is moving very, very quickly. And so we knew early on, literally going back almost 2 years, we knew early on, like it was starting to show up in different areas of our business. And it's a piece that we help our clients with, not to be afraid of, but to utilize it to help us perform better and to be able to produce more. We can produce more and faster. But it's also a piece that has, change of where our business was 6 years ago when we rolled it out. We actually rolled it out in December 2020, so 5 years that it's been the full agency, but we were on it for this platform. We were on for a year prior to that, testing, making sure it worked for our company and our business before
mm.
we rolled it out to our clients. We always will test everything before we roll it out to anyone. Um, and so it was just taking the same work that we were already doing, helping businesses understand their tech stack, basically what software and hardware and apps were they using for their business. And in the back before this platform, before our agency, it used to be that we would go in, we would analyze, do they need a calendar system? Do they need a payment system? Do they need a CRM, so a customer relationship system? Do they need a an automation software, like what were the things they needed, and then we would help them find the best programs. But then we found this platform. So it's not ours. We're an agency for it. It's a white label thing, white label product, but we have become specialists and experts on the platform. And so it's about helping companies and businesses, and we work mostly with entrepreneurs and small to medium-sized companies who are literally running 10, 15 softwares and programs, and we help bring it all into house into one, what we call Command Central. And so it makes it easier to run your company, run your business, automate things that are repetitive, and it brings everything down. And we developed our program called Simplify to Scale, which is the main thing people want. They're tired of all the complex stuff. We want to help businesses simplify their systems so that they can scale and grow. That's it.
I love that. And for anyone that's ever done that, I'm like you, so I've been in the grocery industry for a long time. That's always been my primary job. And like right now, I'm the CEO of a company that owns and operates grocery stores in Chicago. But I've always, until recently, like the last 3 or 4 years, I've been entirely focused on that grocery business. But I did lots of stuff. Like I've flipped, I don't know, 40 houses, something like that.
Wow.
And so I started up like a rehab company and a construction company. And I don't want to sound arrogant or anything. I've never found selling hard. It's not hard to attract business. Like if you return phone calls, you can attract business. It's really that like literally answer the phone when someone calls you. If you clear that hurdle, you're ahead of 90% of your competition. And so attracting the business is not hard. Running the business gets insanely hard once it starts to grow. And so we
Yeah.
went from having 3 guys to 4 crews in about 2 months, and managing 4 crews and the payroll that goes with it and tracking expenses and the accounting for each project, because we typically had investors involved in our projects. Like that gets wild pretty
Yeah.
quickly. And so I was hoping we could spend a little time. Let's just pick a generic. There's a lot of coaching businesses now, right? So I'm whatever, and I'm not. This sounds derogatory. I'm not trying to be derogatory in any way. I'm a life coach. I'm a fitness coach. I'm a business coach. I'm a whatever. I'm coaching other businesses because I've got a lot of knowledge, like both Lisa and I do, right? We've both been in business a long time, and there's value in knowing people like us. We have dealt with a lot of shit, and we've probably got good suggestions to try when you have problems.
Yes.
But that sounds good, but how do you monetize it and how do you make it a business? So if I came to you and I said, "Hey, I've got this business where I consult with people who make widgets and I'm a great widget maker coach, but I've got to build this business." How would you interact with me to start? Like just kind of a generic walkthrough of what that interaction would look like.
So we always start with the end in mind. Okay, so the first piece is what is the transformation that you can help somebody achieve?
Hmm.
Okay, so what problem do you solve, right? So the first piece for anyone starting a company is what problem can you solve? You have all this you have experience and all these things. What are you really good at? What problems do you solve? So once you know what problem you solve, then you can help them with whatever that transformation is. If they, I don't know how to use this for widgets, but
Pick
maybe
something else. It doesn't. Yeah, I'm not hung up. I just want to walk through the
yeah.
process. Pick something that works for you. Yeah,
Okay, let's say they're a
without
coach.
naming names. Yeah, without
Yeah,
not
they're
like
a
I'm not
coach.
looking. Yeah, yep.
It could be a health coach, a life coach. They help people go from A to Z, right? At the end, they have gone through a transformation and they have solved a problem. Maybe it's, they're letting childhood trauma hold them back or whatever that might be, right?
Sure.
And you have a way to help them release that and then release that so that they can be free to focus on what they need. I have no idea. I'm just, pulling that one up.
Yep.
So it's the transformation. So the key thing that's so super important in any business model is what do you help solve and what transformation are they going to achieve? So you lead with that. You lead with the problem that you solve. And once you can do that, the people that are looking for that are going to find you, right? As long as,
Mm.
obviously if you're doing marketing, et cetera, you have all of your conversation around the transformation. That, again, what you do, how you do it. People don't care how you do it, they just care that you fix it, right? That's what they care about. If you have a flat tire, I could care less how you fix it, just fix it, right? I'm going to the guy to fix my tire. And if I have the guy going, I am the best tire fixer in the US, I'm like, I want him, right?
Mm.
So it's being very confident in what you do and how you do it, part of it, and having just a true message on what you can do. And you will begin to attract those people. So we always start with the end in mind. Once you have that, then we reverse engineer everything. Okay, so in order to get to this, what do you need to do? And so what are the pieces that have to happen, right? And then you could build this any way you want. You could build an automated system. You could build a course. You could build a membership. You could have it where they just, schedule a call and they do phone calls with you or Zoom calls with you. You could do it. You get the beautiful thing as an entrepreneur is you get to design it however you want.
Mm.
And there may be a learning curve if you're just starting out, but if and when you have a mentor or coach to help guide you along the way, which I will always recommend, always, if you're an entrepreneur, is to invest in a coach or a mentor. Um, 22 years in business, we have always had coaches and mentors. We continue to invest in mentors for ourselves because we have a saying, you cannot read the label from inside the jar. And what that means is you're in it, right? You're in it. This is your baby, it's your passion, it's your thing, but you can't see what the outside sees. And a mentor or coach can look in and go, wait a minute, right? Like, what about this? What about that? And so, an absolute, we tell all of, absolute must is that you must have a mentor or a coach to help guide you, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, let me interject there real quick before you keep going because I couldn't agree with you more. And the example I use to kind of make it make sense is most people know football and they know who Tom Brady is. And
Uh-huh.
so widely considered the best quarterback ever in the NFL. At every stop that he was at, he had a head coach, he had an offensive coordinator, he had a quarterback coach, he had to work with the wide receivers coach, he had to work with the offensive line coach, he had to work with the running backs coach. If you're better at what you do than Tom Brady was at being a quarterback, more power to you. I'm not better at what I do than what Tom Brady did, and I can use help. I don't know everything. I don't come close to knowing everything. It's too bad you didn't know me when I was 20 because I was so smart when I was 20. I knew everything. You didn't have to ask me. I would
Yeah.
just tell you. And I've gotten a lot dumber over the years. It turns out I don't know shit, but there's lots of people that do, and they'll help you. So couldn't agree with you more. So sorry for interjecting. I just think it's
No, no, I
such,
love that. And
yeah,
I use a
yeah,
similar analogy because all athletes, but again, if an athlete is at the top of their game, they have coaches because the coaches can see what they cannot. Many
yep,
times it's incremental little adjustments and changes, incremental, but they're positioned to be able to see that. And that is how athletes become top athletes, right? They go from being it's not doing it all by themselves. I mean, they've got the skill sets, but they still need the coaches to help them. So, yeah,
yep,
love that.
totally agree. Oh, sorry, I interrupted you. Keep going.
That's okay. I don't know where I was going with that.
You were reverse engineering the process. You had figured
Oh,
out
yeah.
what the end result was and saying, okay, now how do we build it?
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, so yes, so again, we recommend obviously having a coach to guide you through that. But once you have that mapped out, and I literally like I literally draw it out. I use whiteboards, I use, sheets of paper, and we literally draw it out so that it makes sense. You want to understand the client journey. What happens for the person comes to you as they're a prospect, and then what happens to them once they come into your world? Okay. What are the pieces that they go through? We call it a pipeline. But understanding that client journey is understanding the value of a client as well over the long term. Are they coming to you one time, or are they coming to you, paying you, or and moving up into your higher end programs, whatever that might look like for you. So you map that all out. And after you have mapped it out and you understand what your offer is, what the transformation is, how you help people, and then how you're going to deliver it, then we build it. That's when we build it. And that's where having a very strong foundation and having again, what I call your platform is critically important because if you start piecemealing things, we call it Frankensteining, but if you piecemeal it or Frankenstein it, and I'm going to use, I see this thing and I'm going to buy that to do this and I'm going to buy that to do this, it becomes a nightmare for you as the person creating it because now you've got to learn all these different things. So the reason why we love this all-in-one command central is because it keeps everything about your business in one place so that it's a natural sort of journey and process. You don't have to worry about is the information from the calendar program sending it over to my CRM? Am I getting their info or they filled out a survey? Do I have to log in there to get the survey and then it's not attached to the person? And so all of these things make your job harder. And our whole goal is to make it as simple as possible. Simplify it down, put everything in one place, connect it up, and then the next piece is automate. Automate, automate, automate. It's my favorite thing because especially in this day and age, and I think you had mentioned this. You mentioned this earlier about answering the phone. So one of the areas that we specialize in is something called AI employee. And I'm going to tell any business owner, if you are not answering their calls, just like you said, if you are not responding or answering those calls, they are going to go somewhere else immediately.
Hmm.
They're going to pull you up, they're going to Google you, they're going to call, they're going to reach out or send something. If you do not respond, they're going to be like, all right, who's the next one who does that? Who's the next one who does that? So AI employee, can I share a little bit about this? Because
Fire away. Yeah. It's your show.
it's super exciting. I geek out over this stuff. But an AI employee, check this out. They show up 24/7. They never get sick. They never have an attitude. They, always say the right thing because we train the AI employee to say the right thing. And then they're always providing value to the prospect. Okay. This is critically important because if somebody calls your business at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I promise you people do, because they're in another time zone or whatever, if you don't answer them, and we have examples of this, I have examples of it was a ladies' wedding shop, a wedding dress store, right? Shop. And
Sure.
this woman was like in a panic because she had a short time frame and she's literally making calls at, I think it was like 11 o'clock at night or something. And no, all the stores were closed. But it wasn't our client, but it was a friend of ours client who had the AI employee set up at 11 o'clock at night and said, well, what are you looking for? What do you need? And da da da, and asked a few questions. And the person's, interacting with the AI employee. And then the AI employee goes, well, let me book a call with a live person. They'll be in the office tomorrow. What time is better for you? 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock? This is at 11 o'clock at night. They're like, oh my
Mm.
gosh, right? So they literally will book the call with a live person because it has access to the calendar and knows when those call availabilities are. So
And the crazy bride can sleep that night, right?
yes, right. The crazy bride could sleep that night. And the business will now have a lead that didn't move somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because in this day and age, people want responses and they want answers right now or they'll bounce, right?
Yeah, well, so I was fortunate to learn that in the grocery business. So think about grocery shopping. So let's say you go to the grocery store and you've got 15 items on your list, and two of them are critical for dinner that night, and the store you go to doesn't have that one. You're going to go to another store. You're not going to buy the 13 items and then go to the other store to pick up two. You're going to say, well, screw it. I'm going to go and get all my stuff where I can get all my stuff. They'll literally walk out the door, drive across the street or down the road to another grocery store and buy all of their stuff. So you don't lose the $1.19 pasta sale. You lose the $28.94 total basket because they're going to go
Yes.
spend it somewhere else. And you don't have the luxury of, oh, I'm waiting on a truck. I'll have some tomorrow. I'll get back to you. Like they want their groceries right now when they walk in the door. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's a great analogy. I'm going to use that one. Okay.
Mm.
I like that. That is a really good analogy. Yeah, I'm cooking dinner tonight. I need this tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just the business. And like it doesn't matter if you like it or not. It's always been that way. And we saw people during the pandemic, like when people couldn't get bath tissue, right? That's such an anomaly. We're so used to having everything that we want right now. And it's interesting because I think there's been some good that's come out of it. Like I've for right, wrong, or indifferent, I've stayed in a lot of hotels in my life because I used to play
Mhm.
baseball and then I traveled a lot for work. So I've probably spent at least 1,000 nights of my life in hotels. And there was always room service or housekeeping every
Oh,
day before the pandemic. And then hotels kind of looked and said, hey, nobody really gives a shit if they're going to be there for 3 days if we don't change their sheets until they leave. And I'm all for businesses making money and I want them to be able to give me a good cost and still be profitable. So if it costs less money because they don't have to change the sheets 3 times and wash 3 sets of sheets, yeah, there's a component where there's someone that had that job that they don't need as many people to do that job, and that part kind of sucks. But like there's people that used to make buggy whips too, and then cars came along and you had to learn to do something new because we didn't need buggy whips anymore. That's how the world
Right.
works. So
Yeah.
that like you've talked about several times in your conversation already, if you're not innovating your business and you're not iterating your business, you're moving backwards. Because
Yeah.
even if you're standing still, your competition's moving forward, so you're losing
They are.
ground.
They are. And I'm in agreement with you. I also think, again, it's better for the environment. They're not using as much water. They're not like it is. And you're absolutely right. But people do not care. And if they absolutely care, they can request it, right? Like, it is a smart move on the behalf of the hotels. I absolutely agree.
Yeah, I don't mind sleeping in my own filth. I don't want to sleep in somebody else's filth, you know?
Exactly. Ew.
I'm used to my filth.
That's great. So, yeah, this is an area that we're just super excited about that's really, really helping businesses. I mean, I'll share a success story, which is one of our clients is she's a hairdresser, but she's also something called a trichologist. Most people don't know I did not know what a trichologist was before we met her. A
Does she
trich
work on trikes?
no, a trichologist is someone who helps people who are losing their hair,
Okay,
not necessarily male pattern baldness, but the people who have alopecia and different
sure.
issues where their hair's either falling out or whatever. And
Or
she's a
thinning.
specialist.
Yeah.
Huh?
Or thinning. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So she's a specialist at this. So she, as I said, she's behind she's a hairdresser, so she's behind the chair most of the day, and she runs her own little business. And so people call up. Now she has a website, and on her website, it's got like her address and her phone number and location and the whole thing. I can't tell you how many times she's like, I lead Lisa, like 5 times a day, I have people calling me up and saying, "Where are you located? Where are you located? Well, where did you find my number? Well, on your website. Well, it's on the website." Right. So she's really funny and she does kind of lose she's not patient. Let's
Mm.
put it that way after she's been asked that question 300 times. So the one thing she was like, she's just tired of answering their calls, right? And answering what she called, stupid questions, right? Because this is what people do. So we're like, all right, we got this. Like, you're gonna love this. So she had to leave for 6 days. Her daughter was graduating college, and so she had to leave for 6 days. We had the whole AI employee set up, ready to go. And in those 6 days, it handled all of the calls. It scheduled her 12 appointments, and she brought in an extra $10,000 that month from
Wow.
just her AI employee. And I literally have her saying on video, she's like, this was the most amazing thing ever. I'm never getting rid of my AI employee. And it changed her business and it changed her time and her attitude. Like, again, it wasn't an employee with an attitude, it was her with an attitude. But now she doesn't have to do it. And the AI employee is always pleasant. It sounds wonderful. It answers all the stupid questions. It never gets irritated, right? And it works 24/7. So this is why it's so fun to do.
It doesn't say for the third time we're located at.
Exactly. That's what we would do, right? But yes, we also have a pizza shop who has implemented it, and it's changed their business because they had to use it was their counter person answering the calls, and people are like, "Do you have gluten free? What are the toppings? And so the AI employee can do all of that. It answers all of their questions, and then it goes, "Are you ready to place an order?" They go, "Yes." Great. Let me connect you to. And so the call doesn't go through to a live person until they're ready to place their order.
Mm.
Use of their time.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you've talked about a hairdresser and you said trichologist. Do I have that right?
Trichologist, yes, trichologist.
Trichologist, yep. And then you talked about a pizza shop. List off some other, like you work with a lot of different businesses. List off some different segments that you work with.
Yeah. Financial advisors and CPAs, this is really fantastic for. It's just automating their systems and getting questions answered. Anyone that's really a service business, this is where it's so, so helpful. We are now moving heavily into the law a full circle back for me into law. We're working with law firms. and attorneys, again, so that they can use their people more effectively. And so a lot of the basic questions can be handled, can be answered, and then moved to an appointment, moved to a scheduler. My gosh, we have so many different ones. We have, let's see, the CPA, um, uh, uh, I was going to say, like if you have a yoga studio where you have classes, like if it's someone who runs classes, a yoga studio or a gym facility is great. Although gym generally have people at the front desk, but again, answering the basic questions, and maybe they only use the AI employee in the evening. Maybe they have a receptionist during the day, but in the evening, instead of an answering service, right, which is also a total pain and quite expensive.
Hmm.
With AI employee, it's one set cost. You know exactly what it is every month, no matter what, 24/7. So we have found it's easier and better to work with an AI employee. You don't have to worry about a service. Um, and again, it can be structured in so many different ways. We have again, it's kind of a yoga studio, I guess. So they've had great success with it. We have so many, I don't know, I got to think of all of them, but
The point here is they're like you work across a wide spectrum of businesses. So if someone has a business and they've got pain points in their business, it would never hurt for them to reach out and just talk to you about what they're looking for, right?
Yeah, we do. We also have a really simple quiz that we have available. I have two different quizzes, but a quiz that's available for people to evaluate what do they have in place now and what do they have systems? Again, because it really comes down to systems. Do they have systems? And everyone knows this. You may have heard this many times, whether it's McDonald's or Starbucks or whatever. These companies have grown so big because they're based on systems.
Hmm.
Everything they do is a system. I could buy a Starbucks here in Las Vegas and buy my coffee the way I like it. And I could be in Greece and go to Starbucks there because they have Starbucks there, and I will get the exact same thing. Or anywhere. It could mean Canada, Mexico, whatever it is, I will always get it because it's based on a system. It's the same thing for any business, no matter what size you are, is having systems in place that make your life easier so you can focus on what you do best.
I love that. I worked at a company, it was a food service wholesaler. And so I've been in the grocery business almost
Yeah.
my entire career, but there was a couple of years where I worked at a food service wholesaler, and that's where you sell to restaurants and hotels and anyone that prepares food and serves it to the public, like in a dining setting. And that is an extremely personal and transactional business. So there's lots of people out there that sell meat or produce
Yeah.
or jars of vegetables or whatever. And so you have to develop what I called sticky relationships. You want to be a solution for the business, not a salesperson to
Yes.
the business. So a different way to think about it, well, like we used to talk to our salespeople, figure out how to help the restaurant sell more salad and they'll buy more lettuce from you. Don't try to sell them lettuce. Help them sell more salad,
Oh,
right?
good.
Yeah, it's just a subtle shift, but it's important because then you're solving problems for the business. And people
Very
want you to solve their problems. That's what they're actually paying you for, is to solve their problems. And so you've got this big network of guys and gals that are out just pounding the roads and they're stopping in a couple times a week to take orders, et cetera, et cetera. And while they're doing that, they're prospecting because it's a commission based system. And the more you can build your book, the more money you make. So why would you not want to do that? That's the name of the game. Um, but it was all manual. And I tried and I tried and I tried to get them onto a CRM and I could not sell the owner on it. I could not get them to do it. I'm like, this is all proprietary information for your company. So if this salesperson leaves and goes to your competitor, they're going to take that whole book with them. Like it's literally in their
absolutely.
car and it's going to go with them. Don't you want all that information, not just the order history, but every time that they've called or every time that they've emailed, every time that they've texted, that will go
Yes.
into a CRM and you can monitor all of that stuff. And you can't tell me that that wouldn't help us establish those relationships better. I could never get them over the hump. Have you
Wow.
encountered resistance on that with customers, with
Wow.
clients?
Wow, that's crazy, actually.
Mm.
Again, if they're old school, they're old school. Like again, they've got to be ready to understand the effect. So I would say, so, sometimes for us it takes a little bit of back and forth, if we're in negotiations with a company to help them see the picture, understand. I think if they understand more of why that's going to make a big difference and what you can track and what the numbers are and all of that. But I mean, if, I always say like, if they're fighting it, I like I what was it? I don't want to drag if I have to drag them in, I don't want to then I have to drag them around, right? If I have to drag them in, you have to drag
Right.
them around. So I want businesses that are excited about a new way of doing this, right? How can, oh my gosh, I can track all of that. So when they come with you with that kind of a question, and I didn't know that was possible. You mean I can track this information? And yes, it is like it's proprietary. You're absolutely right. Like that's not the salesperson's leads, that they're an employee, though that belongs to the company. And
Mm.
you're brilliant on that. Like it's critically important. But again, if they're closed-minded, they're closed-minded. And I'm like, I'm here to help you see it, and we'll be here when you understand that. But it's this is going to make your life easier. It's going to help you build those stronger relationships because it's in any business, you must have a strong relationship with your clientele. You absolutely must. I don't care if it's a grocery business or a yoga studio or whatever it happens to be. I think if a grocery store actually did that, I think that would be amazing. I'd be like, oh my gosh, like they know what I like to buy. Actually, I'm
Mm.
going to tell you something. This is crazy. I, the store that we frequent here, it's a Kroger store, but it's called Smith's here in Vegas.
Yep.
And literally last night, now that you bring this up, last night I was saying to my husband, they send us coupons, right? I remember back in the day, you get all these, sorry, crap coupons. Like I don't eat fast food and junk food. I
Mm.
don't at all. And I'd get all these horrible coupons. I just always just threw them in the trash. Well,
Sure.
what Smith has done is they know what we buy. They track what we buy and they send us coupons for things that we buy. And so I'm looking at the coupons list and I'm like, oh my God, every single one of the coupons that they sent us is something that we buy. Every one of them. And that gets me going back there because I'm like, they know what I buy. And that makes me happy that they're sending me coupons on something that I'm going to actually buy and not it's a bunch of crap shit that, sorry, that I would never buy and never eat, right? Because that used to just drive me I hated coupons because I get all this stupid stuff. And
Yes.
now with Smith's, and here I am talking about our grocery store because I'm really impressed that they're sending me something that I want.
Right. They know you. It's a fine line though. There was I heard this at like a trade show where there was a speaker talking about targeted marketing, like you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like it's terribly important to understand, and any information you can get for exactly the reasons you just described, any information you can get to personalize someone's shopping experience
Oh,
is terribly important. So for grocery, people hate grocery shopping because it's like they have to do it. It's kind of like laundry. So like there's no way out of it. You have to do it. And if you can change that so that they enjoy coming to your store and they look forward to coming to your store, that's like gold. But it's a fine line. So I'm at this seminar and there's a guy talking about marketing. This was 15 years ago when kind of big data was just making
yeah.
its appearance into the world. So there's a Target in Minnesota, and they've employed someone, some super smart kid from MIT, and they've applied this algorithm to shopping habits and or search engine habits. And they send coupons for prenatal vitamins and diapers and one other, clearly targeted to a pregnant woman to this guy's 15-year-old daughter and
Oh,
he freaks out. He calls Target. What the hell do you think you're doing? I'm getting these coupons for my daughter, and how dare you? 3 weeks later, she tells him she's pregnant. And they had surmised because pregnant women had certain proclivities on search engines. And when they searched certain things or certain words, it indicated that they knew they were pregnant and they were researching it. And so the dad called back and said, hey, I got to tell you, I'm really sorry. My daughter, in fact, was pregnant when you sent her all of that stuff. So it's a little bit freaky to people that you can learn that much about them and that you might know some stuff that hasn't been disclosed to you yet. So it was a bit
wow.
was a bit sales, like, hey, this is how good we are, but it was also a bit of a cautionary tale. Um, like I always talk about organics because everyone says they want organics until they see the price tag. So like I'll bring organic lettuce into our stores and it's 4.29 a head. And you market lettuce, you stock it next to each other on the shelf. So I've got a $4.29 head of organic lettuce next to a bag of regular old romaine fresh mix for $1.29. I don't sell much organic. People
Yeah.
always say they want it until you put it out there, but
Yeah.
it's just a lot more expensive because, like you've been talking about, it's not manufactured at the same scale that
Right.
the bag of Fresh Express is, and they can get the cost lower per unit because of the scale. So,
Yeah.
and so yeah, business is so interesting, isn't it? You learn so
It
much,
really is.
kind of as you go through it. And I totally agree with you. Systems and processes. We actually figured out we used to buy a bunch of potatoes from Idaho. Like everyone when they think of Idaho, maybe you don't, but I do. Idaho is a huge potato
It
producer
is.
in the
Yeah.
United States. And so we used to buy a ton of potatoes from there. By the way, Ore-Ida potatoes are Oregon and Idaho. That's where the name
Yeah.
Ore-Ida comes from. Um, and we literally were buying them by, the multiple trucks a week. And we were
Wow.
like, God, I wonder if there's a better way to ship these. And so we contacted CSX, which is a railroad company, and said, hey, what does it cost to ship a carload across the country? Now, it moves slower than over the road trucking, but it also you can fit like almost 4 trucks of potatoes in one box car on a
Wow.
train. And we have good enough history to know what our volume is going to be on those. So if I carried enough safety stock, I could buy it on the train and have it come across the country. It took an extra week and a half to get there, but when I brought in enough to give myself about 2 weeks of buffer, and we saved over $1 million in freight charges 1 year just from figuring that system out. And
Wow.
like where I come from, $1 million is real money. Like that
That's real
matters.
money. And that's really good on the bottom line.
Yeah, and it literally was dollar for dollar to the bottom line. It was an expense
Wow.
that was no longer being
Wow.
incurred. So it was literally a penny for penny profit to the bottom line.
Yeah, and that's
So
the thing is understanding that bottom line. Like we talk about many times, it might be a dollar line item that you may see the difference, but it also may be your time. What is your time worth? Like how much time are you wasting on these systems that aren't working right and all that? Though there's a time value, right? Again, you or your team or your staff, are you paying staff to try and figure things out that should already be worked out? So there's all of those pieces that again we love, like you said, like if I could get a company to save $1 million on their bottom line, I'd be really insane. But we're working towards that. We're working towards that. We have a amazing new company we're working with, which is a cruise line, a custom cruise line out of South America. Some
mm,
fascinating stuff that they do, and it's so exciting how we're helping them automate their processes and their systems. So again, our whole goal is we want them to see a difference on their bottom line, a difference for their staff, a difference in how they're generating new leads and new customers. Like that's the stuff that I get excited about, and knowing that there's, newer ways to be able to accomplish this, right?
yeah, and for the other piece to it, you talked about it is the time. So what if you free up your like strategic people 10 hours a week? What could they think of or work on for 10 hours a week that's going to grow your business, drive it forward, make it better, expand into new markets, develop new products, whatever it is in your
Exactly.
business? And now they've got the time and the energy to spend on the business instead of in the business, right?
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what we like to see. So, yeah, this has been fascinating. And I loved the tie into the grocery business, by the way. I really do. I love the analogies of it.
Yeah, so the grocery business is very interesting because it's not hard to understand at all, but it's extremely difficult to deliver. So groceries about volume and you're trying to control fixed costs, raise volume and keep another penny or two a unit. And that's how you make money. That sounds easy when you say it. Anyone that's passed a basic cost accounting class understands the grocery model. But delivering that, it's so complex. There's so many different moving pieces to it, and it can go sideways on you real quick. And the margins are terrible. You're lucky as a retailer to keep 2-3 cents of every dollar, and so it gets tough. But there's crazy people like me that have been doing it for a long time, and like the challenge of it, and like you like helping people, So,
We do. Absolutely love it.
yep. Excuse me. What is one thing that what's the biggest lesson you've learned from your whole process of building these businesses and kind of being out on your own and having to run everything? Like, if you're going to pass along that lesson, what would it be?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. And it's probably something that, it's evolved definitely over the years. Um, I still would say is regardless, find alignment and collaboration with other people or organizations. We are also a part of several different what we call masterminds, mastermind groups that we meet on a regular basis. Um, for us, it's entrepreneurs, but there's different mastermind programs. And we get together on a regular basis and we talk real talk, right? We have these kind of conversations about, business, what's working, what isn't working. Because as an entrepreneur, it can be very lonely. It can be very lonely, especially if you don't, have a spouse or significant other. But even with that, it's just us. So having a community, I think, is really, really critically important. And this is, by the way, in real life as well. We've seen this after the pandemic, when people were isolated and how traumatizing that was for so many people. I think community is critically important, both personal and for business. Finding other communities that are like-minded and that do similar things and that you can throw ideas off of. That's really been our saving grace because I will say during the pandemic, while our business was going fine, that was probably the hardest thing for us is being so disassociated.
Mm,
Right? Being so disassociated that was the hardest challenge for us at the time. And when we were able to come through that and reconnect and again build those communities, and it doesn't have to be a big community, it could be a small group, but it's just understanding that there are other like-minded people and that you're not the only one going through the things that you're going through. So that's important. It's also important in mental wellness as well. Like this is one of the things in mental wellness that is that you know that you have a safe space to talk to people, and that in and of itself, like being heard, right? Knowing that you're being heard can make all the difference in the world on a personal basis and in a business basis. So.
mm, love that. Absolutely love it. Well, I know we're running up against time here. I know you've got another commitment that you got to get to. I always open the floor up at the end of my conversations to the guest. If there's anything I haven't asked you that you think is important to talk about, or a subject that we haven't talked about that you think is important, or just final words for the audience before we wrap up.
No, I love this conversation, by the way. I love it. It's diverse and it's evolving in molds, and you never know where it's going to go. And I love that. Um, I think this is fantastic. It's interesting. So I want to thank you for that because I've done a lot of podcasts, and this has been really, really interesting, I think, in both directions. I would just share, I will be sharing with you some links. I have a link where anyone can go and take a short quiz to learn about and understand what kind of systems you may or may not have and see if there might be something to discover. Where, I love talking with businesses. I love talking with business owners. There's never any pressure. We're here to help, you think bigger and to be able to understand what is possible. And that's where I always come from. Like, what is possible? And, being open-minded, being open to seeing other things. And that's how our business has evolved. So I just hope I can share that forward with your audience as well.
Love that. So, my parting words would be if you've got a business and you've got pain points, or if you're thinking about starting a business and you're not sure where to start, but you've got an idea or you want to talk through with someone, what can it hurt to go to Lisa's website, to take one of the quizzes, to reach out to her? And maybe you need a coach or a mentor. Maybe she could connect you with someone that could get you started on a path. Or if you're an established business and you need help, and you do need help, you might not know it, but you need help. I can tell you, we've got an established business. I can use help. I'm telling you right
We all
now.
can.
Yeah, that's right. As the person that runs the business, I am not too proud to say I do not have it all figured out. I need lots of help from lots of people. So we've got a great resource here in front of you. Appreciate Lisa's candidness about hey, it wasn't all rainbows and unicorns. It wasn't always easy. There were some really shitty parts to it, and they had to keep their wits about them and problem solve and bite the bullet and do hard things and make hard decisions. But look at the passion that she's got about what she does. Look at the energy that she brings to what she does. That would be a great thing to have in your business. So if you're in the market, highly suggest you reach out to Lisa and team, have a conversation with them and see what they can do for you. So fire
I'll
away,
end
Lisa.
with this. I'll end with this. We named our business very strategically. It is called What Works Academy. Whatworksacademy.com. I'll have it in the link, but we help you do what works, okay? And so it's simple. We always want to keep that simple. Joe, thank you so very much. I just absolutely love this conversation. It's fantastic.
Thanks for coming on. You're a great guest. You did a great job and really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you again.
All right, Lisa, have a good night. Thank you. You're good.
Okay. All right.
Good
See ya.
job. Got you out. I got you out 4 minutes early. I want credit for that.
You did. Thank you so very much on it. Anyway, I
Yeah,
look forward
thanks
to
so
talking
much.
to you.
All
Okay.
right. Have a good night. Okay, guys, there you go. So, free little primer there on Business 101. Lisa talked about starting out as a bartender and a waitress, going through the legal profession. Actually, she started talking about junior achievers and junior achievement, and that lit kind of the bug in her ear about starting her own business at some point. Spent a lot of time in the corporate world, pivoted to her own thing. Her and her husband started up their businesses. Problem solved, got through the tough times, and they're thriving now. And so, like we talked about, all the information to get in touch with Lisa and team are going to be in the show notes below. So make sure you check those out. If you've got a business, thinking about starting a business, we highly suggest you reach out to Lisa and team because she can help and she can maybe be the difference between you being successful and you really struggling. So don't be too proud to ask for help. You've got a great resource there, and we really appreciate Lisa coming on to the show and sharing everything she shared. What a neat lady. So James puts it up over here every day. Head over to our website, saltygingertalk.com. All the podcast episodes are there. Links to the social media accounts are there. Newsletter we publish every weekday. You can subscribe to that there. We're pretty funny in that newsletter. If you're not reading it, you're missing out on a laugh to start your day off because it usually comes out early in the morning. So make sure you subscribe to that as well. Like, comment, share, subscribe to the podcast, whatever platform you consume it on. We're going to keep finding awesome people. We're going to keep covering a wide variety of topics. It's always going to be about helping you take control of your life and build the life that you want. You have to make those decisions to do it. We know you want to, or you wouldn't be watching the podcast. We're going to keep having awesome guests that are going to help you do that. You don't want to miss them. Make sure you catch our next episode. We will see you there.